Can we get some attention up here? Let's go ahead and get your snacks, get seated, let's get started. We've got a time frame, we've got a Saturday morning, we want to go do other things. Can we make sure you're not signed in? We need your name, your phone number, and your email, if you'd be so kind to furnish that. So like I said, this is not my meeting. My name is Becky Watkins. I am a vice president of the Women's Democrat Club here in Madison County. I'm a little peon of about 8 people, so you know that doesn't mean anything. But one of the things that has been discussed in some of our meetings, if some of the candidates that are running, if they find another person is running for the same position, we don't want that. You can kind of massage that out so that we don't have a good candidate butting heads together and then maybe something happening. They either lose out against the best candidate, or we just kind of want to flush that out however it works out. So that's my 2 cents worth this morning, and take it away.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Melanie Wright, and I am a native of Anderson. As a matter of fact, I'm back teaching in Anderson at Anderson Intermediate, the room that I decided to be a music teacher in. And Cheryl over here is my former biology teacher at Highland. So anyway, super excited about that. But anyway, I am so thrilled to be here. I want to thank Helen Ween and all of the Democrat women for Friends of Democracy for setting this up and bringing in everything, all the food items. And then I want to thank Devin Scroggins, who's done a great job as our new Madison County chairperson. So let's give those people a hand. And thank you all for coming out on a Saturday morning, on this beautiful Saturday morning when you could be at other places. So my name is Melanie Wright. I was actually the state representative for District 35. I ran in 2012 and lost. And then I ran again in 2014, and I was able to hold on until 2020. And then, things changed in 2020, so I did not win that election. And then 4 years ago, I ran for the Senate seat over in Delaware and Madison County for Senate seat 26. And this is a very conservative part, but I still gave people a choice. And I'm trying to figure out what to do next. But anyway, so today I want to talk to you about how to run for office, because these were truly some of the best years of my life, because I met so many people and I was able to help people just on a one-on-one level. So, so first of all, what's your why? And by the way, if you have any questions, feel free to come up to the microphone because we are recording it. So at any time, excuse me, just come on up and ask a question during the presentation. All right, so what's your why? So this is so very important, because my why was I was seeing in education how everything was changing and we were losing local control and we were not making decisions that were best for kids, and we still are not. The money's being put in different places that it shouldn't be, and we're not accountable for it. It's going to charter schools that are closing, and then we're losing that money and we're not going after it. So you've got to find something that you're super passionate about to run on, because the days will be long. And the work is tough. So if you can just find something that you are just really tied to, that's so important. When I started running, I was thinking it was going to be organized like education, but it wasn't. So when Helen asked me to do this, I jumped on it because I wanted to put together a sequential procedure for you to check out. Now, some of these overlap, but at least it has an order that you can go down and figure everything out. So the first thing you got to do is contact your county chairperson. So I didn't even know who my county chairpersons were at the time. Like, I was always a steady voter. My parents modeled that for me, but I had no idea. So Terry Austin had come to speak when I was working on my master's at AU, and I thought, oh, I'll just call Terry. So she helped me a lot, and then we had a new county chairperson over in Delaware County, Michael Quirk, and I eventually got a hold of him so that because that district overlapped 2 counties, I had to contact them. That's really important because they've got to be in on the loop on what's going on. And then the next thing, and this is so important, I think, like if you write down 3 tenets that you believe in, that you can run on, and then you can vote on. So they have to be umbrella thoughts. So right away, because I was an education person, I didn't want to put that at the top because I didn't want people just to see me as a teacher. But the first thing I believe in, and still do to this day, is advocate for working families. You know, I'm concerned on the federal level what's happening. I'm still trying to advocate for working families, whether that involves raising the minimum wage or making sure that they have the benefits that they need to survive. I like to do that. And then promote local controls in schools, no matter if it's a charter or virtual, or I don't have to get on that side of the argument, union or non-union. I'm just promoting local control, which is so important. And then partnering with local government to make our communities better, I just think is so important, because if we can work with local leaders and not usurp, take away their authority, that's what we need to do. We need to be able to help them from whatever level we are at, so we work together for people. So the filing deadline is later than what you think it is. Like for those of us at the state level, and I'm pretty sure for the congressional level, it doesn't come until January. Yes, and then you've got like a month window. For local offices, you run through your county office to get the paperwork. This is the link to the state site right on the in.gov site. Now, when I put this presentation together maybe 10 days or 2 weeks ago, nothing for 2026 was updated on our state site. Not one thing. It only went to 2024. I was shocked. When I went back and double checked it when we did a test run earlier this week, there were 4 links, but only the 2026 candidate guide was a live link. So I kind of think they're late to the ballgame, because now is when people are making decisions about when to do that. So keep that in mind. You've got that small window, but you're going to start running before that. So running right now before that window is totally fine. You can go out and you can say, I'm running for this office and attend events, and that's perfectly fine before you file. And it feels backwards, but just keep in mind that filing date. All right, then picking out a committee name. I wanted to keep it broad because I wasn't sure if I would ever run for something else, so I just did committee to elect Melanie Wright. And I'm glad I did, because when I made the Senate run, I didn't have to change anything at the bank. My friend Shelley Yoder, who's a state senator, she calls it Friends of Shelley Yoder. Jennifer McCormick was very specific last time because she was just running for governor, and she wasn't going to change that in the next election cycle, so she just did McCormick for governor. So just kind of think about what that committee name is going to look like. Oops, I went the wrong way. All right, so then these two are important. Like a campaign manager can be somebody who's very active. So one time I had Ron Richardson for my first 2012 campaign, and he was still the sheriff here in Madison County. And then I knew he was going to help another candidate the next cycle, so then I went with Bob and Janice Stinson, and they helped me immensely. They're based out of Alexandria. And, you know, they could be as involved or as not involved as you want them to be. Like Terry Austin would have a campaign manager where it was just a name only, and she just knew what to do, and she went out and did it. So the more times that I did that, I didn't have to have that person saying, hey, don't forget there's a Tenderloin dinner here, and there's a fair over here. But that's what that person does, is kind of keep you together on what events you need to go to. The campaign treasurer, really, so my sister is an accountant, so I grabbed her. And so she still does my paperwork, and it's really easy for her to do. But I'm glad I didn't have to do it. I have known candidates to do it, but I would suggest getting a trusted person to do that, because there are deadlines that you have to adhere to, especially at the state level. And if you miss it, you are fined. So you've got to stay on top of it. So, all right, then moving on. So then think about your campaign colors, because this is going to represent you and everything that you purchase. So I always like teal, black, and white. So that's what I did the presentation in. So right away, business cards. I know Corey just handed me one of his, which is so awesome. But those are really important to have, just so that when you meet new people, they can have your contact information. Also, I cannot stress this enough, like you'll write thank you cards so much for every time you get money or somebody does something great for you, that I took my own words and had it printed in a printed thank you note, and then I would write like a little note on the bottom, hey, thanks, it was so good to see you. Oh, yeah. Because it was taking me a lot of time to handwrite those notes and say everything I wanted to say. And then I had everything like with the address labels. I know that seems really simple, but it's like this saved me so much time. And then think about having a badge, because if you work during the day and then you go to a campaign event, instead of throwing on a campaign shirt, you could just keep like one of those magnetic badges in your glove compartment, stick it on, and then you're identified wherever you go. So that was very helpful too. And then think about t-shirts. Of course, we try to get them American made. Sometimes that's a little bit tricky. But yeah, and then when Ron was heading up my campaign, he wanted to spread that around, and it was challenging to get the right color of teal every time. But hey, we spread the business around in Madison and Delaware County, so it was worth it. And then a banner for the parade. So sometimes people just blow up their signs and maybe add their picture to it. And then walk pieces, and we'll talk more about this later, but walk pieces that have your cell phone number on it. In all the years I served, I have my cell phone number on my State House stuff. I had it on my campaign stuff, and it was not abused, not one time. So I was glad when I met people and they would call me. I was glad that they would do that for me to help them, you know. And then think about having stickers, like to hand out at parades, you know, because kids like to wear stickers. And then some people sold decals for their vehicles, and other people would put them on their vehicles too. Okay, so the next one was notify precinct committeemen. So again, I didn't even know these existed. I mean, again, I have been a solid voter, but I had never been lined up with the structure of all this until everything started affecting education. Then I started paying attention. So there will be a list where you have a precinct committee person and then a vice precinct committee person for every area you're running for. I did a letter and I sent it out to them asking for their support because they really expect that. So then when they go door to door and they find where the Democrats are, where the swing voters are, they're able to say, oh, hey, have you met Melanie yet? She's running for state rep. And very helpful to have that on your side. Okay, so I'm giving some examples of signs because, again, being a naive person, I was like, what looks artsy to me? So this is my original campaign sign, and I want to really emphasize the point you have to have a disclaimer at the bottom, paid for by the committee to elect Melanie Wright. So you have to have that on your signs. If not, you can get fined for that. So very important. So I really like that. And then Ron Richardson said, you can't really read your last name from a distance. So then we switched it to white, and look what a difference. So you want people to be able to like just see it really fast as they're driving by and recognize it. And this is actually one of the big signs that we made to put around like the 4-H fair and things like that.
Melanie, why didn't you ever use the right in your name as something? Melanie's Right for Madison County. Melanie's Right for...
We were trying to do the right for Indiana. That's why we did the right bigger.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, all right. And then I was at Alexandria Schools, and we were doing some sort of a job fair or something like that, or maybe a candidate night, which is unusual to do at a school. But anyway, I have my sign. Here's my walk pieces with the same coordinating colors, and then I had the business cards. This is back before I went through my cancer journey, so I look a little different. But I like these walk pieces because they were easy to put into like a crossbody purse, and they weren't sticking out the top so they wouldn't get damaged. And then I was able to just bend them in half a little bit and stick it between the doorknob and the door frame, and it was perfect. And I would write right here. And sometimes I would put, you have the best flowers, and we'll get more into that. I would put that right there, and you can't be very wordy with those. It's got to be whatever it takes to get from the door to the recycle. This is what they're going to read. Okay, so then the next is meet with local elected officials. So I got to tell my story here about Alexandria because I campaigned a lot in Alec. So Mayor Woods was the mayor there. And so I made an appointment to go in and meet with him. And he's a Republican, but all I was going to say was like, I'm just going to work really hard. And he was like, people come in here and they ask for my endorsement. I wasn't asking for an endorsement. I was just like, hey, I'm here. I'm going to work with whoever is in office. And The mayor that's up there now, Todd Naselroad, who's also a Republican, he was the go-to person for me because he knows a lot about sewer lines and water and stuff like that. And he was a huge help. And so he was a resource to me. And I would call him or text him and just say, what do you think about this? And he was just like, oh, that just sounds ridiculous, or this is good. It was so helpful. So having local elected officials, you can tap in on their expertise on whatever you need to do to make your decision as well. And then the next thing I would do is like do an announcement, because now those people that are on the higher tiers around you that are elected already know you can make an announcement. And typically people just do that like at headquarters. You could do it with other people where you just have refreshments like this and you introduce yourself, you ask for support, you answer any questions people might have of you. Terry Austin had the idea that I should go through the district, and a lot of times she would come with me so people wouldn't think that I was primarying her, because that used to be her district and she was redistrict. So that was a huge help. So she had the idea to hold one here, and then like I would do 10 o'clock here, I would do like noon at the Emory Lee building in Alexandria, and then I would move up to the former hamburger joint up there at Elwood at 2 o'clock. And then on a different day, I would do an announcement over in Delaware County. That way I could go to the small communities without expecting them to come here. But whatever works for you. I thought that was a good idea, though, because a lot of people are like, well, Terry Austin's my representative. And I was like, well, actually, she's been pushed south. So then I would attend a lot of the town and city council meetings just so you could just see what is going on, what the needs are of the citizens. You could hear their feedback, anything that they wanted to tell you about. And then meet with school superintendents. I can't even say how important this is because schools are taking a beating right now. And a lot of times, superintendents are afraid to get a target on their back because they're trying to balance all of this. So teachers can say a lot more than principals or superintendents right now. And so they would tell us at the State House, like they just don't want that on it. And I get it because that's going to be something that would hurt the kids. So, but we can be very outspoken as teachers, which my group boys is. So that's really important to meet with them and then have a relationship with them, and then they can weigh in on different things. Like the Yorktown superintendent would always say, now, Melanie, we're not of the same party, but I know that. You tell me that every time you call me. But I really would like for you to vote this way on this bill. And I said, I'm totally on the same page. So, I mean, it was interesting. And then others would just be informal conversations, or I would go to school board meetings, and it was very helpful. Fundraisers. You're going to go more in depth on the second in the series on fundraisers, right, Helen?
Yeah, I'm going to kind of do an overview at the end when you're done.
Okay. So fundraisers, if you have somebody who can take a fundraiser and just go with it and you can just keep campaigning, that's awesome because it's very hard to try to organize it yourself. The thing, again, I'm going to refer to Terry Austin a lot because she is so helpful because we would do house parties, excuse me, and we would actually, we would do them up in Elwood. We would invite all the educators in Elwood, no matter what party, so we could come, they could talk, and then there was suggested donations, so it might be like 50, 100, or 200 or something, whatever you want to make it. And then they would know going to a fundraiser. Now, that's another thing I didn't know because now I know it's important to put my money where my mouth is, so I am a regular donor to people I believe in, to get people in office that I think are important and good leaders. So, and then just having to organize refreshments, and then what you're going to say, and then doing the thank you cards and following up, and then giving everything to your treasurer to get deposited. It's just a lot. So if you have somebody who could just take that and just go with it, and then you just answer a few questions here and there, that would be very helpful. Now, ironically, I've kind of noticed this more like with male candidates. They'll tend to have the females around them like doing this, ordering the sweatshirts, doing this. And female candidates, it's like, where's all the volunteers? It's like, women could do everything. I remember I was helping Jennifer McCormick campaign, and it was just a group of women who were out there just doing it, going to different parts of the state and everything. But yeah, I mean, it's just a big difference. I've noticed that too in band directing when I was in that world, so it's interesting. But yeah, try to get somebody to handle those for you. And then, because it takes a lot of work. So, yes, ma'am.
Are those paid positions or are people volunteering for that position?
Volunteering. Yeah, which is hard to get these days. Yeah. Yeah. But a lot of times if people really believe in you, they're like, I will host something at my house. Like I went to one in Alexandria where it was a smaller house party and just like probably 7 or 8 people there. It was so helpful though because the high school principal was there, other important figures, so it was very helpful. Then think about your 30-second stump speech, which should include your 3 tenets from before that I said like you believe in and you vote on. That's got to be in your stump speech. So if somebody asks, what do you believe in? You can like fire it off in 30 seconds, as long as it takes an elevator to get from the bottom floor to whatever floor you're going to.
Captain Garden.
Yeah. So, and you'll be asked to do this. Like it might be like you're in an event and it's like, oh, would you say a few words? And instead of like, oh, like you could just have your stump speech ready to go. So. Okay, door to door. I loved doing door to door. Some people it's not their thing, but I liked it because I'm a people person. And so I got to meet all these great people and I got to hear their stories. So first of all, wear identification. That's very important because people want to know who they're talking to, whether it be a campaign shirt or a badge. That's very important. And also, like I told you, I would do a crossbody purse and put my walk pieces in there, but I was also making sure that I would ring the doorbell and step back because you don't want to hover, right? All right, and then be in the moment. Like I could tell people would come to the door and they're just like, they don't want to talk politics. And it was like, oh, I'm Melanie Wright, I'm running for state rep, but oh my gosh, your flowers are so pretty. I love flowers. Oh my gosh, I love working in my flowers. How did you do that? Or they would just start talking about something that bothered them and just keep asking questions because you're finding out more about the district, you're finding out more about constituent concerns, and you'll start seeing similarities once you start talking to people. And so you're basically trying to find their number one issue. You know yours, but you're trying to find theirs. And listen, like sometimes just listen. And then I've had people say, no, okay, what are you running for again? I'm going to support you because they told me their stories. And I'm going to give you a couple of examples. I was knocking in a neighborhood near Highland Middle School, and I knocked on the door, and this lady had just lost her husband. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And she just started then talking about her husband. So I just stood there and listened, and I asked questions, and then 2 years later, I kid you not, I stepped on the porch, I'm like, this is the lady who lost her husband. And I just knew it because I was in the moment. And so I was like, you had lost your husband the last time we spoke. Are you doing okay? And she was like, yeah. But you just really have to be in the moment and not think about what you're going to say next. That's so important. Then forming relationships. Like I had another example of this lady who called me, and I was just getting off my school day at Daleville. She said, Melanie, I've been told my grandson is in jail. Okay, we all know that scam, right? Your grandson's in jail, he needs bail money, you gotta send it here, I need your credit card number. I said, oh, please tell me you did not send anything. And she goes, I didn't, I thought I would call my friend Melanie. Made it all worth it, seriously, because that lady was probably my mom's age, and if I just saved her some money, I was so happy. That was so fulfilling to me that I could say, that she could trust me enough that I could say that's a scam, please don't do it, Just relationships are so important. And then just finding similarities because you always can. I always like to tell this story too. Bob Boehning is the Republican in charge of the Education Committee on the House. And he is a thorn in my side. But I was so excited, excuse me again, a big contingency from Anderson was coming down to have a dinner down in Indianapolis. And I was like, oh, great, I'm going to sit with all my friends that I know, the elected leaders. And they were like, no, Melanie, you're at this other table. So I wasn't at Terry Austin's table and all this. No, I was at Bob Boehning's table. I was like, I literally was praying, okay, what am I going to talk about? Okay, he likes dogs. I like dogs. We talked about dogs. And then eventually we got to campaigning, and he said he likes to go door to door, but I thought that was interesting. So even if it's a sliver of similarity, you can find it. And then I would find my newly met constituents on Facebook and friend request them. That way they could see, oh, she has a dog. She likes flowers. I know I talk about flowers a lot. That's my favorite. That I have family pictures on there, that I go to birthday parties, I support my friends, I support my kids, I go to watch the Daleville team win the state championship in baseball. They could see that I'm just a normal person, not just a politician. And then I always like to circle back to door. I thought that was important, like if I could get around and then go back and knock again. Because when you knock, you have a turf, and I'll talk more about it. And so this turf is what you're going to knock on. There's swing voters that could go Republican or Democrat. So when you go door to door, you want to try to get them up to a number 1, which is a full supporter. And so sometimes if you knock on the door, it's like, nobody ever knocks on my door, so I'm going to vote for you. So that's just so important to like form those relationships. I also, once I got elected, I would love to, if somebody had a question on the survey, because we would do surveys, I'm sure you all get them in the mail. I wanted open-ended questions, being the teacher. Like, I wanted lots of work, like, tell me exactly what you think about it. I love that. And I would read every single one of them. And then they were like, but if you do closed answers, then we could put it on a graph. I was like, I don't, because not everybody's going to send it back. So it's not like the data was useful, but it was useful if they could write out what they wanted. And then on my drive back to Yorktown, I would just sometimes call and say, hey, I got your message. Like, you do want to talk now? And it would be so helpful. And it would give me something to do while I drove back. So just those relationships are so important. Oops, wrong way. Oops, totally going the wrong way. What's happening? I see what's happening. Sorry, guys. I had it upside down. That's what's happening. Okay. All right, how to recruit volunteers. So friends, of course, and then friends of friends. So sometimes they're like, oh, I can bring my friend to do this parade, and then it kind of grows a little bit. The campaign manager that I had in 2014, Gary Halusko, he was awesome because he would actually make phone calls just recruiting for volunteers. And so he would say, hey, can you come in and do calling from 5 to 7? And we had a campaign office. Can you come in and do that from 5 to 7? And then you can't wear them out. You can't say, well, can you come back tomorrow night? You could say, okay, this is Thursday night. Can you come back next Thursday and call from 5 to 7? And then it doesn't feel overwhelming, doesn't feel like you're taking advantage of them. But he was really good about setting that up so that we could have people on the phones while I was out knocking on doors. And so sometimes it would be like, yeah, we just got a call, from you. And I was like, yes. So sometimes we would line it up that I would be in the same area that we would call, but not all the time because we would prioritize what needed knocked and how we had to move the numbers. And then we would also get people to go door to door. And a lot of people don't like to do this. So I think you've got to really believe in the candidate and be able to speak for them. Like, I knew Jennifer McCormick really well, so it was easy for me to go give a speech on her behalf if she had someplace else to go. It's hard, like if you don't know that person really well, to ask them to go door to door. So make sure they know your 30-second stump speech and what you're all about. It's very important. Social media. So when I first started running, I was like, my young campaign manager was like, okay, you got to tweet that out. I'm like, tweet that out? What do you mean? So anyway, anytime we did anything, we would put it on social media. So I loved doing Facebook Live videos. Oh my gosh, those were so fun. I would be, and I think you use these as commercials. Like, I would be at the 4-H fair in Madison County, which I love to go to, and I was like, I am out here and I am eating an elephant ear. Oh my gosh, do you know how much these are? You should bring your family out here. We're having such a good time. I would do that so you can promote the good things that are going on in your area. So they're not, again, just thinking, she's just trying to get to a position to get whatever. It's like you really want to sell like a commercial, like how great your district is and the good things. Because think about it, most people focus on the bad things, but if you can bring the good things out, that's so important. Like, I would go to like the Alexandria Christmas Parade or the Yorktown Christmas Parade. Yes, ma'am?
I want to add something to that about the live videos. I'm also a consultant on the side. one of the things that is being suggested that we start using, in addition to live videos, is sending just voice clips. Just when you talk to text or you talk in the Facebook message, it doesn't have to be a live video, but it makes them feel that they're interacting with a live person. So just your voice also helps.
Good tip. Thank you. Thank you. I found these helped a lot. And I cannot tell you how many people are like, we love your videos. And so I just love doing that. I think probably because I'm a teacher, I could just speak on the spot. So, but it was so fun just to like promote the district and just a good time. One of the best times of my life, I gotta say. Okay, so the van is what the Democrats use to capture their data when they go door to door. So usually your county chair has access to the van and can allow other candidates to have access to the van. And then like for state candidates, a lot of times, like I would get mine through the House Democrat Party at the state level. So we used to do print off a turf so I'm going to go walk precinct 1 in Alexandria or Monroe 1, okay, Monroe. So I would have that turf, and then if that person said, I am supporting you and I'm voting for you, you check them as a 1. If they said, nope, they're a 5. If I didn't know, I would give them a 3, and if they said, I'll think about it, I'll give them a 2. I didn't usually use the 4 because it just doesn't really land there. But then we would go back and we would re-knock the ones that were 2s or 3s to see if they would support. So then Minivan was created because it's just like a little app on your phone and you can just put it in there, like put the numbers in there. But you can also put comments from anybody who you talk to. So I would put comments in there like, oh, yes, this was one of my students, or this is so-and-so's grandparents, or they're concerned about the environment, or they're concerned about education, or this person's a teacher, and I would put those little notes in. And as I went, I could see when I had knocked on the door and what we had talked about. So that'll pull up right on your phone, so much easier. So I would have, with my walk pieces, I would just have my cell phone right there. I will say, on door to door, the last time, and I had never done this before, I would put a phone locator on, because sometimes I would go out by myself. But the last election 4 years ago, I did share my location with a friend, just to be careful. I never did that before, but it's a different time now.
Always go in groups of 2.
Yeah, and sometimes I would just get a wild hair and say, I just got to go knock some doors before I go to this meeting. So, okay, so prioritizing commitments, I cannot stress this enough. So before the primary, you should be knocking on Democrat doors and maybe even leaning Democrat doors to get their support so they know your name early. Most of the time there's not a primary, sometimes there is, but at least they get to know your name. You kind of leave those people alone, because then you're going to knock doors until voter registration ends. And then at that time you can take a voter registration. Well, now you can do it on your phone. So, they could just sign up to be a registered voter. And then after that voter registration ends, if you're knocking on every door in a neighborhood, you're totally wasting your time. You have to knock on the ones that are going to be voting in the general election, because then you're wasting your walk piece money and you're wasting your time. So that's super important. And then it's probably not a good thing to say, but you also, like if you have like a Democrat meeting versus knocking on doors, you've got to start prioritizing the door knocking just to keep that up, and maybe send somebody else to go speak for you and say, hey, Melanie's out knocking doors in Yorktown and I'm here representing her. So that's very important, that you want to just pull away and just be out interacting with voters. Yes.
So could you kind of talk through that one more time when you say by voter registration, what kind of shift should you be making in terms of your priority?
So once the voter registration deadline hits and they can't sign up anymore, if you're going to every house in the community, you should stop and you should only go to registered voters.
Okay.
And the van will pull it up and tell you who's registered. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Melanie,
Yes.
can you say who again that you would need that information for? The van.
That's all sponsored by the Democrat Party.
Okay.
So
For me, with running for a federal position.
So I suppose you would have to go through the district chairperson, would be my guess, for van access.
Who's district
Who's
chair?
the district chair?
For this one, it's Terry Austin.
Terry is.
Uh-huh, yeah. I would talk to her, and I don't know if you have to get approval through every county chair or not. Sometimes people can be a little protective of that. So I would go through Terry Austin.
Okay.
You can also see notes, like the person who's the next Democrat, well, Phil Gift is running for District 35. He could see my notes in the van when he pulled it up. So you'll be able to have a little bit of background there. So it's really helpful. Now, when we used to do it on paper, somebody would have to enter that data in, and if it wasn't entered in, then it just got lost. But for the minivan, you're putting it in live, so it's so helpful. Parade. So again, Terry showed up in Elwood because she wanted people to know I'm not running against her. Okay. Oh, there's Amy. There's Amy, my high school classmate. And here's all my friends here and friends of friends. And some of these people I didn't know because they were friends of friends. They were like, oh, I just want to come help. But Terry made these little signs on PVC poles. Okay, so now what we do, like especially in Randolph County, when the Democrats are very sparse over there, we might hold a sign, have a different T-shirt on, and have somebody else's sticker on. So we're promoting for 3 people at the same time because you have to use your resources. But if you have enough people and you can get like a banner on the back of a trailer and get people to walk, excuse me, and then make yourself look different. So I would wear black a lot so people could tell who the candidate is, because I have a hard time telling who the candidate is if they come through and they're all wearing the same shirt. So just make it look a little different. And then shake hands on both sides of the road. Like let other people pass out candy. Like once I got elected, I would pass out candy, but I was like, hey, I'm Melanie, shaking hands and zigzagging back and forth. But yeah, and those are good PR things. And there's parades everywhere. Everybody has a parade. So, and if you have somebody who can kind of organize that too, because you'll have to sign up in advance, and usually there's a small fee, $10, $20 or something, if you're a political event. So, okay. Okay, endorsements. So this has changed a little bit because a lot of the newspapers are not local anymore. So like the Muncie paper, the Muncie Star, used to interview us, and then their editorial board would endorse a candidate. And we would do the same thing with the Anderson Herald Bulletin. Now, Helen, you said in the last election they did it again.
They did endorse. Don't you guys remember the Herald Bulletin did endorse?
Which is awesome. And they still have live reporters because we even have one of my former students at our school board meetings, which is awesome. And then Ken Delabastide and Andy.
Yeah, night.
Yeah, Andy Knight. Yeah, out at everything. So those are a little tricky because I'm glad they have it in Delaware County, but they don't have it I'm glad they have it in Madison County because they don't have it in Delaware County anymore. You could also seek out organizations. Like right now, like I belong to AFT, the American Federation of Teachers, 519, which is the local Anderson. We try to put our money towards candidates who are just going to help us, not just about education, just people that are going to help people, because that's what we believe in. But then there's also other union organizations that you could seek their endorsements, whether it's like IBEW, steelworkers, pipe fitters, and people like that. Sometimes they will come out and they'll endorse different candidates depending on what you're running for. You can also get an endorsement from other elected officials. And now that everybody is very social media savvy, instead of putting it in the paper, you could put it on social media. Like I got endorsed by Ron Richardson, and he wrote a little blurb about me and put his picture in there and what he is, and then I'm endorsing Melanie Wright. And then you could push that out and have people share it. Letters to the editor help too, because people sometimes still get the paper. So if you read a letter to the editor from somebody who really believes in you and you ask them to write on your behalf, or you could share it on social media as well. Those will come late in the campaign. Yes?
Can you talk about endorsements like before primary, especially when you're running like for me, I'm running with Deborah and Jackson and Samuel Cooper, like even weirder, we're all friends. So it's like
I hate to tell you, but a lot of organizations will just say hands off for the primary. Mm-hmm. they might interview you before the primary and then say, we're not going to take a stand on the primary, and then you'll have to re-interview before the general.
Okay.
That's what I found to be happening. Okay. Debates. Okay, I got to tell you this story. So, down at the lovely Anderson City Center, that's my first debate. I was in the bathroom, like, tearing up, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? Terry Austin's like, okay, dry it up, let's go, And I was debating Jack Lutz, 22-year veteran at the time. It was like, what do I know? Like, I can talk education, but what if they ask me about this or that? Okay. So once I got calmed down and on stage, I was like, okay, don't be afraid to say, I don't know about something, but I will look into it. Because people would rather hear that or ask a question. Like one time I was asked a farmer question at a Farm Bureau event, and we had never talked about it on the Ag Committee, and I was like, okay, could you clarify that? Because that's not coming through. And meanwhile, all the other ones had tried to like kind of BS their way through it, and I was like, we haven't really talked about that yet. Sometimes debates are a thing of the past, because what I've noticed a lot is people won't show up. So in 2016, I still debated the guy who ran against me. And in 2020, there were no debates, but we were also in the midst of COVID. They kind of just never came back after that. So when I ran for Senate last time, we had retired educators who put one on in Delaware County. The Republicans didn't show up because they thought it was all about education and one-sided. Yes?
We did with the League of Women Voters a few years in a row, just kind of like a town meeting. But again, you're talking about not being able to view primary candidates. I think the goal maybe this time is to have those where the primary candidates are available. But what it was just an open forum where people could come in and you didn't have to listen to 5 other people. You could go talk to your representative or people running for certain things, certain offices. And it was one-on-one rather than on a stage. Mm-hmm. We didn't have any incidents. We had, what, you guys, 2 of those? You remember, Patsy? Was it 2 of them? And I think it would be good to do that again, specifically primary-wise, if we want young people to actually get up and run. I think we need to give them a forum.
Mm-hmm.
And we had it at the public library, and we had over 100 people.
Nice.
Public.
Nice.
And public loved it, absolutely loved it.
As certain candidates.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There was, I won't go too specific on this, but we were advised not to go to a certain debate. And I was like, I'm going because I owe that to people. Because I think if you're bold enough to run for office, you should be bold enough to stand up for your vote or what you're going to vote for. Otherwise, why are you there? But yeah, so those, I'm glad that you're changing the format. So maybe that's less intimidating to people.
Well, people always, here's what we heard, because you didn't want disruption and stuff, so you would have people write their questions down, and you could only do so many questions, and this person didn't get their question asked. Well, let them go to the candidates. Again, by the time you're at primary stage, they haven't had the opportunity to vote for the primary candidate. That's what needs to happen.
Yeah.
That's what I'm hearing with young people. They want that initial forum so that they can get their views out. That kind of thing.
I love that. Love it. So surveys, oh my goodness, these are going to come in really late when you're have lack of sleep, you're trying to balance 2 jobs, you're trying to knock doors, go to all these events, and all of a sudden it'll be, we need you to answer these surveys. So the last one that came in, there was a big debate in Yorktown about some taking of some properties and fixing it up for the whole town. It was a big kerfuffle. And so then I was given like 10 survey questions, which are really policy questions, because Amy, you have to put some thought into it. Because that's how it's going to be printed. And I was like, what? I called the guy, why are you doing this? Like 2 weeks before the election, like I have such a limited time and you're pulling away from that. And I said, plus my opponent probably won't answer the questions. And so he said, okay, I'll do this. I'll cut back the questions, and then if she doesn't submit the questions, the answers, I won't submit yours. Okay, fine. Because I didn't want people just to judge my input without my opponent's input. These could be on anything. Like I used to get it on the reservoir. Yeah, I would get that on the reservoir. And on anything that's just controversial. We used to get them for the paper. Like Elwood would send out like a list of questions, and then it would be printed in the paper. I'm not sure if they still print a paper up there now. Yeah.
Once a week.
Okay. Yeah. So, and they would be, and it was pretty general, and I think the Anderson paper used to do that too. So those might come your way. Radio interviews. I love doing radio interviews. Oh my gosh, like I would do Wolf Boom right over there by Daleville Schools. And I was like, maybe I was meant to do this. Like I would just get in there, put the headphones on, and he would fire some questions to me. And at the end of the first interview, Mitch said, Mitch in the morning, he was like, I wouldn't set you up with any questions. Naive me, I didn't even think about that. Like I'd answer any question you gave me. And then we had a caller that called in, which I'm totally all for that too. I think people should say the Pledge of Allegiance every morning and just go, well, we do. Like, So anyway, I love doing those. But if you get a chance to do that, that is free publicity. Like you can just talk, and people listen to talk radio, like especially older people when they're driving, when farmers are farming, like this is a very rural area, they'll listen to it. And then I ended up doing some advertisements on radio, which are cheap, much cheaper than TV, and then doing some social media ads as well, because TV is incredibly expensive, and I could never do that unless I was getting a lot of money from unions and things, which was not in every race that I ran. Google Calendar. I was trying to do everything on my written calendar, and then it got too long, so now I switched. And then here's what I do, and I still do this as a teacher. So I'll check my Google Calendar on Sunday for the whole week, and then each morning I'll double check it, because the last thing I want to do is not show up somewhere where I'm expected to show up, and then people think, well, if that's the way she's going to run, that's the way she's going to be in office. So important. I mean, I know like you young people are already on all that stuff, but all this technology, it was good. It was a learning thing for me. Hitting a wall. Oh my gosh. I wish somebody would have told me this was normal. Like you'll hit a wall and go, I am so tired, I just want to stand here and cry. Or you just like, you have so many people coming at you. You should do this. You should be here. You should do, and it's coming from everywhere. And then I remember before I would go to school, I would have to look down and make sure I had the same shoe on each foot because I was so tired, Or I would look at the bottom of my shoes and it would be so worn out from going door to door, but I love it. But yeah, and you have to have safe people that you can vent to. So it can't just be, oh, I heard that person just going off about campaign. You got to have a safe person that you could just like, I can't believe this. They're doing this and that. And the best person is a non-political person. So my friend Debbie Hendricks was my sounding board, and I would just be like, and she would give me like good sound advice because she was removed from it. So she was able to help me parse through that. But that's totally normal. All right, any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Back at the very beginning, when you go to the county chair or wherever you have to go, what if you have county chairs who are saying, we don't want you to run?
So it is my thought that everybody should be able to run. And I think that we might all be in a better position these days to invite that. I don't think we should ever discourage a candidate because that's the democratic process, and I believe that our party stands for that. And so, I mean, it's going to be tough to get like a van and stuff like that, but if it reaches across a different county, like at the time when I was dealing with Madison County and Delaware County, I love coming over here because it's like my home base. It was a little dicier over there. Now it's a totally different situation. It's great. But at the time it was like trying to balance that, but I never had a primary opponent. But I would say, I'm going to run. Like this is just, I mean, sometimes candidates get into a race and they talk to the other candidates in the race. And they're like, I'm going to get into this. So how do you feel about this? And they kind of talk it through. I would let it be dealt with that way. But my personal feeling is it should not come from the county chair. But that's my 2 cents.
Does the county chair
Not if you meet the qualifications. So like if you have to vote Democrat in the last 2 election cycles now in order to be able to get on the ballot, and then, yes,
No, go ahead.
in order to get on the ballot, and also you have to live within your district within the last year, I believe, that you're going to run for.
So you can't have a record of non-voting, you have to have.
Yes.
I'm just clarifying.
Yes, you have to have
You
that.
have voted in the last.
Yes, but now you can get a pass from the county chair if you don't meet that. But if you meet that and they're telling you not to run and you meet the qualifications, you can still run. Yes.
For congressional areas, you don't have to live in the district.
Oh, that's right.
It was the weirdest thing, which thankfully
Now
for me,
say
because
that
I
again.
literally I live in McCourtsville, and I'm 5 minutes from Ingalls, which Ingalls is District 9. And my soon-to-be husband and I are looking at where to move. And I lived in Muncie. My daughter just graduated from Yorktown. Like, I lived in Muncie
Yeah.
from the time I was 18 until literally Valentine's Day of 2020. I moved to McCourtsville. And I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, I have a passion for this district. That's why I'm running for it. And I thought I lived in it until I got the district line. And I'm
That's not
like,
your fault.
I am right there. Like, I am right outside of it. And I'm like, do I have to live in it? And I called the state, and the state told me, and by the way, their forms are going to be released in November.
Okay.
Because I called them trying to figure out how to
Good to know.
to file. I had to go file with the FEC
Okay.
for Congress, and they got their forms out. But they said no, that for Congress, you do not have to live. I could live in New York City, is what they said.
I
You could-
remember that
which
now
is just crazy.
because of Trey
Yeah.
Hollingsworth
Hollingsworth. Yeah, Hollingsworth.
in District 9.
Yep.
Yes, yes.
So,
and Shelley
then
Yoder was running against her.
somebody said that, it's usually frowned upon if you don't live in the district.
Yeah.
But they even equated my case of like you literally, it's splitting hairs on
Yeah.
somebody like where I'm right on the line. Gerrymandering. I used to be in the
Yeah.
district, apparently.
Yeah, good point. Thank you for bringing that up. I did forget to mention this. When I was at the State House as an elected official, if anybody was going to come down from the district, that was top priority. The only thing that stood ahead of that is if I would miss a vote, because I wouldn't want to miss a vote. But you could step out of the chamber, like if somebody's presenting, as long as you're back to do the vote. But I would always do that. So you can't forget people once you're in office. You still have to do all the things, like go to all the things, be engaged, be talking with people, because then, they see the genuine side that you really want to help people. You're not just there. I had one guy I ran against in 2016. He said, well, I'm sure just like me, you're just doing this as a stepping stone. I was like, what do you, no, this is exactly what I want to be doing, like being right here. So, yeah, I think that's important. So, any other questions? Yes, Corey?
Can you talk a little bit about how do you juggle, like, I work a full-time job. How do you juggle working full-time when you're not an elected official yet? Like, how do you balance that time? How do you stay motivated? How do you get everything done? Because it feels like, I feel like I'm behind the 8 ball.
Yes.
And I'm never going to catch up.
So this is what I would do to still be a solid teacher. I would put on my teaching cap until 4 o'clock, and then I would totally switch my way of thinking to kids. And then at 4 o'clock, it switched, and I went to the campaign office. And I had to just compartmentalize like that, and that worked very well for me because I could put boundaries around it. Because I hardly have time to check my phone during the day when I'm teaching, so then I could check it after school. Okay, I need to do this, this, or that. So that helped immensely. And then on the weekends, I would just dedicate it to campaign issues because you're always going to be somewhere on a Friday and Saturday. Yeah.
You also have to put family time, because I know I sell real estate, so I even trained my daughter because she would complain about, you're never home. I gave her a pen one day when she was about, I think 10 or 12, and said, just put it in. So when she wanted me to do something, she went to my planner and blocked me out. Okay, so I would say that's a good way for your family to do, but don't give up your family time.
Yeah.
That will kill you too.
Yeah. I actually did. Well, I'm single, so I was just focusing everything on that. But sometimes I would put my friends aside, and I do think that's important because looking back on that, I was kind of lost in all of that. Yeah.
Sorry, I'm gonna-
No, you're good.
Lots of questions. You said campaign office. How do you afford it?
So I was sharing it with Terry Austin, and it was part of a building that another local Democrat owned. And so there's 3 separate offices in there, and he would just let us use it. So we just lucked into it. Another time, when I had a campaign manager that would be hired by the state caucus, the House Democrat caucus, and then I would have to pay like for his rent every month. And so we found him a 2nd-story house apartment right across from my school. And so we used that as a campaign office to do some calling and things.
That's one thing that after the tragedy in Minnesota, like,
Yeah.
I had to use my home address. My home address is public for the world to see.
Yes.
And
Yes.
it's scary as hell after
Yes.
what happened. So-
Yes. For sure. Yes.
If you did use some of your own money to fund this, do you have to first give it to your campaign and then they use it, or how? I've
Yes.
wondered how the millionaires do it.
A whole different way than what we do it.
Don't we all?
Yeah, a whole different way.
They could just pay for everything.
A lot of times I would buy things up front, like maybe like a small order of T-shirts or some signs and stuff like that. Then you could keep the receipt and then have the treasurer reimburse you from your campaign with that receipt. And then that all shows up on the itemized finance report. And then if I didn't, or if you just gave me, if you just paid for 50 T-shirts or whatever, it would be Cheryl Meyer's in-kind contribution. It would be the value of that because no money exchanged hands. You gave me an item. So in-kind contributions are things that I had never heard of before. But if somebody gives you something, you can put that on there. And then if it's $100 or more, you're listed. So I would have some Republican. I remember a very prominent Republican who's no longer with us, but he was like, here's a $100 bill, but go buy yourself a Coke at McDonald's before you deposit the $99. And I had another Republican do that too, donated $99. So yeah. So that's very interesting. But then you can also get some money from the people who endorsed you. Like, for instance, we just met AFT Indiana, and we're doing some endorsements for House and Senate races in the off years, which we can do. And then if you get money from a PAC, I see you. If you get money from a PAC, they can give you unlimited amount of money. But if you're giving it from a COPE fund, like we only had $2,000 that we had to split between candidates in the House total, and $2,000 that we had to split in the Senate. So, yeah, it's very capped. But if it comes from a PAC, it can be limitless. And then for us, like the last 2 weeks or something, if you get anything $1,000 or above, you have to report it within 3 days so that they can see where the money's going. Because money will start switching hands real fast at the last couple of weeks. Yes, Corey?
Can you talk about PACs and I've been asked a lot, am I going to take corporate money? And sometimes I feel like there's a negative, and I'll fall on that sword. I've even thought negatively about people who take corporate money. And now that I'm sitting in this seat, I can still see why people would think negatively, but I can also see how it's a positive because, there may be a corporation that's in your district. That's a good corporation that wants to donate.
Yes.
Do you say no? Like, what? I think it's based on the person, but can you enlighten us on both sides of that thought?
I would be willing to take money from people or corporations that I felt solid about. Like when the big beer industry versus the retail mom and pops, when that was going through, man, we had mom and pops holding strong in this district, and I held strong with them. So I would not have taken money from the other side. But then as soon as they were okay with open liquor stores on Sunday, then I switched because I wanted to honor what the mom and pop stores. They were afraid they would go out of business, and they were afraid they would not have the money to hire people for that weekend when you can conveniently go somewhere else and get it when you get your groceries. So on situations like that, I would do that. But then other corporations, like a corporation in Alexandria, would always, donate and they're very active in Alexandria and Orestes, and I represented them. But I would have represented them even if they didn't donate. So I just never would take from anybody that I felt sketchy about. But then sometimes at the end, I would be getting from local unions, like from all over the state, because maybe I was endorsed by IBEW, and I would get local ones coming in, like just in my mail. I was like, oh, yay, this is great. But that doesn't happen all the time in every election cycle, because they prioritize. So they prioritize on seats that they think they can flip, and that's where they'll put the money. So, yes.
One of the things I wanted to talk about, and hopefully talk about with some of the people here that have run, was the don'ts. What did you do that you would never do again? Or what would you tell people to shy away from?
Well, and Terry Austin, again, she was very preventative for me, because she was like, first of all, scrub your Facebook. And I was like, well, I'm a teacher. It's pretty scrubbed, and I'm a pretty scrubbed person anyway. And she was like, don't have any picture where you have liquor behind you or you have liquor in your hand, Now, I don't know. I mean, things are so different now, but that was the big thing. But I didn't have any of those pictures. I can't really think of. I wish I would have been able to just kind of prioritize some rest time in there, because I think that would have made me better in the long run. But I kind of get on a mission and I just go. And I wish I would have slowed down. Well, I say that, but I don't think I would have. But no, I mean, I think because I'm a teacher, I was pretty safe in that space where I didn't have to worry about that. Like, I didn't have to, don't go off on a cussing rampage in a restaurant or something like that, because now people can just photograph it or remember that, just, be careful of your human interactions. But again, because of my background, it's just, we have to do that anyway. So, how many of you are running for office or thinking about running for office?
Only a little bit.
Yes!
There's a couple.
Are you thinking about it?
Stephanie is, you are Franklin.
Oh, I didn't recognize you. No, I'm probably more of a person that will be part of a campaign.
Uh-huh.
That's the other piece that we want to do, you guys, too, is as Melanie, when I first proposed this idea to Melanie, first words out of her mouth is, yeah, we need to build a team.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what it is. It's going to be a team of people running, but it's also going to be a team of support, people that are going to help you with your campaigns, help you with everything to get you going. That's the other piece that I think a lot of people that are running miss, and we need to have it available for them.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
I would say this, a couple of things. I helped manage a campaign in 2023 for the 24 elections locally, and when you primary an incumbent, just know that there are a lot of pitfalls, and it's a real thing to not have clear access to the van data.
It is. It is.
So,
Yes.
I mean, that's a critical piece, and it's important that, I think Melanie really hit it on the head, is that, develop relationships with, those who hold that information, or at least, be open to conversations, and don't make nice very early.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yes.
I would say, be your best self with everybody.
Yes.
Absolutely.
The custodian, the person you just met. But how time consuming was it when you were full-time, when you were elected? I wonder about some of these offices, how much time serving in that capacity would take. Like county commissioner, I'll just throw that one out.
Yeah, so some of those are paid positions and I'm not sure about county commissioners. So some of the city ones. Okay, are they paid they're not paid a lot where they can stop their job and then just be a commissioner,
I think they're
right?
considered part-time, aren't they?
Okay,
They're like mid-40,000 right now.
Yeah.
okay. And then others like assessor and things like that becomes a full-time job.
That's a full-time position, too.
So state rep and state senate are considered part-time. So I would take off from school because it's covered in the state statute, and we would meet Monday through Thursday, and then it would get longer and longer. And then half of the way through the session, it would go back to short, and it would grow longer and longer till the end of session because the meetings would get longer and we'd have more bills. And then on Friday, because I was off, instead of just taking a day off from school, I would just go in the district and do something and meet with people, and then I would be out on Saturday too, doing kind of like the campaign stuff, just letting people know that I was still engaged.
Very time intensive.
It is, but it was so fun.
But I
missed
did
it.
want to let everybody know that this is the first in a series of, and I'm not sure whether it's going to be 3 or 4 total. So after this first one goes, please go back, think about people who might want to run or just might want to help with campaigns, because we do need kind of both. We're going to do different trainings for that. But the series of one will be dedicated to fundraising. The next one, which I don't have a date yet, but if we've got your email out there, you will be informed. Will be done by Kim Townsend and Treva Bostic are going to do the second one, and I'm going to give them a choice, but I'm really hoping, because coming from Melanie's here, that the second one will be on team building. We'll have one on fundraising, we're going to have one on cold calls, and one on phone canvassing. And you guys, we're going to do some back and forth, we're going to do some role playing and that kind of thing as well. So look forward to doing those coming up in the future, and we'll let you know. But right now, with the 4-H fair coming up, how many people would like to walk in that fair with the Democratic Party? Because now would be a good time with Becky back there to see if you can sign up and just walk. I mean, just walk and throw some candy. Just get your face out there. Is that okay?
Also, if I could give out my phone number, and feel free, like if you have another question, I am so happy to talk to you or text with you. But my phone number is 765-623-8284. And if you have any questions, seriously, I'm so happy to help. Like, yes. Yes, 765-623-8284. And you guys, I've got to say, like, serving as a public servant, I mean, I just have a servant's heart, and I feel like so many of you do in this room, that you can, it's what you get back is so people-oriented, like you can really help people. So I wasn't in the supermajority, so I couldn't get things passed, but I could help people, and whether it was connecting veterans to VA or helping that lady about the scam, those meant the world to me. So thank you for considering running for office. And I so appreciate, Helen, the opportunity to do this, because I worked so hard on it, because I knew, like, I just needed a framework. So thank you so much. And then Landon, thank you so much for being our tech guy today. Let's give a hand for Landon. Like, whew, we're lucky to have him. And Devin Scroggins, thanks for letting us use the facility today. We appreciate it. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you.